Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
Ladies out there, this is your boy Satchmo Armstrong, broadcasting live from the cabaret in the sky. And when I'm not busy doing my soloing on my two horn, I just tune into the Artemis presents We All Be News and Radio. Oh, yeah.
Hello, welcome everybody, family, to another wonderful edutainment edition of the Artemis Presents We All Be News and Radio. I'm your host for the empowerment segment, Brother Ron, also known as R2, C2, H2, the Artemis, Louis Daniels Armstrong, a.k.a. Satchmo, one and only, the world's greatest ambassador to the America's original art form known as jazz. And we got a special show with Brother Armstrong, dealing with the topic of Brother Louis Armstrong in a very intimate and special way, this segment in there. But this is a very important show. I'm a big fan of old Satchmo, as you should already know, who are followers of the We All Be movement. I'm just a great fan of Brother Satchmo, the one and only Louis Armstrong. And this is a great show for me, a very special show, because we actually have the daughter of the one and only Satchmo on the air with us. She has recently wrote a book called Little Satchmo. This is Louis Armstrong's daughter. Now, a lot of times we didn't, like you look at history books and things of that nature, we don't know a lot about our great ones, family or loved ones. But this is a very important moment because, historically speaking, it's been assumed for years that Louis Armstrong never had an heir, any daughter or son. But now we know different because his sister wrote this fantastic book. It's a must-read. It's an easy read. It's a great read. It's a very profound read. And it's available at littlesatchmo.com. That's littlesatchmo.com. And also you can pick it up on Amazon. Without further ado, I'd like to bring on our special guest for this segment, the one and only daughter of Satchmo, Sister Sharon. Are you there? Sister Sharon Preston?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. How are you?
I'm blessed. I'm highly favored. It's an honor to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm great. It's been a great weekend with family for me, as always, and getting the word out there more and more about my book and getting the great responses that I'm receiving. I want to thank you for being such a big fan of my father's and keeping his music alive, and not only his music, but really going to the greatness of him as a man, as an artist, as a forward thinker. You really cover the whole detail, so I want to thank you for that and for the opportunity to speak to your audience today.
Yeah, I want to thank you for this. I'm very humbled by your words, but also I just want to thank you for having the courage to come out with this, unbelievable story for a lot of us. I mean, what encouraged you or what inspired you to write this book? Well,
I've wanted to do it for years, but I really didn't know how. And not only know how, I didn't have the confidence to believe that I was worthy of telling my story, because it's not a story wrapped up in a nice little package. It's a story of a relationship outside of marriage, parents having to make decisions based on what was going on in the world, and also what was going on for them. And I had to live in their reality. So talking about me or acknowledging me for me was not first and foremost. And then as you grow up as an adult, you start to wonder, do I really have a voice? So it took a while to work through that issue, and, you're never really done with that. Everyone is always talking about themselves, their self-worth, what's important. And I finally came to the place along with encouragement from people in my life to know myself, find out my story, find out why I wasn't connected with my father. And once I did some research, I realized, connected with him publicly, I should say, but once I did my research, I realized that the only way people would know about me and the only way I could truly validate myself was to tell my story. So I just had to get the courage to acknowledge the story as it was and move forward and accept and tell the story about my parents, who they were, the good and the bad, and also realize that I had a say in the matter now. I may not have had a say when I was growing up and underage, but now I can talk about what I feel should have been done for me and the regret I have about that, not being brought into his light at the, when he was around. So there's some sadness, but I also realized I had a lot of good things to talk about, and I had opportunities that other children don't have. So, I just went out and found a way to get my story out there.
So what's been the response of this story? I mean, how do people in the jazz community and the greater community respond to your story so far, or have been responding to your story so far?
Well, they have been. It's been a mixed bag, from especially in the jazz and music community, from we don't care, we don't want to hear it, to, oh my goodness, why didn't I know about this before, and and wanting to know the details. So it's run the gamut and everything in between. I think the biggest upset for the jazz community, or the fear, which hasn't happened, was that I came out telling the story to harm his reputation in the world. And nothing is farther from the truth. I came out to tell my story that connects me with him and connects me with my mother, that I do indeed exist, and I wanted to be known for who I am, and I wanted to be able to talk about it freely. And also, at this stage in my life, I have grandchildren, so I wanted them to be able to grow up with this history and pass it on, because you should be able to, and people are realizing more and more, know your history, know yourself, and claim your legacy, because it has so much to do with who you are today and where you're going, or where, to kind of direct your history, so to speak. So, that's, I really wish that the jazz community could just see it for the humanness of it, but their immediate reaction was, I'm not going to support this story that's going to put down Louis Armstrong. But many people...
sorry. Mm-hmm.
No, but I would say, so that's the jazz community, but people in general, and especially women, are really proud that I spoke up, and it has encouraged people with similar situations or just family secrets or just something going on in their life to say, you know what, she's right. Everybody has a voice, and it's been empowering for a lot of people. So overall, the reaction has been mostly positive. The reviews of the book have been outstanding. I've been thrilled. People read, and they've gone in, and I've gotten some great customer reviews, because the story is a good story. It presents our family in light of history as African Americans in this country, going through several years of different civil rights and human rights, and also the relationship between my mother, father, the wife that was in there. So it's a human story. And my co-author, Deneen Milner, is one of the best writers today, and I was really blessed that she agreed to work with me on this story and write this story with me. And it's a great book. And I continue to talk about it because I see great things from this book, getting out there for many reasons.
Now, Miss Miller, she worked with Steve Harvey, correct, to write his books, his best-selling books?
Yes, she did. Think
so
like a man, act like a lady. And the sequel that followed.
Okay, cool.
And she's also written books with her husband, Nick Childs. She co-authored Nene Leake's autobiography. She has a series of books on her own. She's also the editor and president of MyBrownBaby.com. It's an award-winning mommy blog, and it's been I think it's been up since 2007, and it continues to win awards and help families, better raise their children. So she's just a wonderful writer and a great person, and it was one of the best experiences of my life working with her to bring this project to life.
Yeah, so you got somebody like that of that caliber in the industry helping you with your book, collaborating with your book. So was self-publishing a first option for you? Was it hard to find publishers interested in this material?
We presented it to over 30 publishers, and they turned it down. I think initially they were concerned about the reaction or the thought that this was a book putting down Louis Armstrong. Some felt that it didn't have enough promotional power to make the kind of sales that publishers look for these days. Marketing, do you market to women? Do you is it an African-American book? Is it for musicians? And then a key factor also is that I'm not a famous person myself. We're talking about a famous person, but I'm not a famous person, so what's the positioning? And if you don't have a clear path for marketing, it's really hard these days to get a book deal. So we did not get the book deal we were hoping for. And self-publishing was the last option. And I waited, I would say, 9 months after we got turned down from traditional publishers to make the decision to self-publish.
No, I'm glad you did. I know a lot of us are glad that you decided that route to self-publish, that you didn't let your voice be silenced by the opposition. I mean, it's interesting to know that you got people like 40-plus years after your father's death trying to protect his image. And I think it's weird to me because it's like in the type of industry that they thrive off of negativity, of publicity, of that type, sensationalism. But when you read your story, it's not really negative. I think it's honest. I think is an honest assessment of the situation, but it's not necessarily a negative thing. I don't see it being negative towards the legacy of Armstrong. So what would you say to those people who you're trying to profit off his legacy or your connection to his legacy?
I would say to them, think about it, especially if any of you are parents, think about your children and what you want for your children. All parents want their children to know who they are. So that's first and foremost. And understanding that he is a great American icon, this takes nothing away from who he was. All of his talents, all of his accomplishments are still out there. What my story does is give him another dimension, because many of the books and articles out there do not show all of, his sides. There are very few that do, but I'm just showing the humanness of the man. And he was a human, and he was a man, and he was a great man. And none of that is taken away. And I also let people know that it's a love story. There was a true relationship. He and my mother had a relationship, and that's important. It was important for me to realize and be proud of that, and also even in the sadness that their relationship wasn't fully realized. We weren't fully realized as a total family in the open. In private, he took care of us, and we were his family. He acknowledged us. His booking office, his management team, everyone acknowledged us as such. So, it was important for me to be able to speak that. And I say to those people who have a problem with that, put yourself in my shoes. And you would want the same for yourself, and you'd want the same for your family and your children.
I'll ask you, too. I mean, you do like your father. I mean, you do like your father. I got this theory where I think that daughters tend to look more like their fathers and sons tend to look more like their mothers. And you definitely got a lot of
I've seen that times, and especially in my family, as I look at my granddaughter, how she favors my son, and his son really favors his mother more. That it just, and I have cousins. I look at that. I think there's something to that.
Yeah, but I mean, you definitely are. I mean, to me, I believe that you are his daughter. I mean, he evidently believed it because he supported you and your mom for almost 20 years. But my thing is this also, have there been any efforts to do any DNA? Are there any other relatives related to Armstrong around, or how would that work? And would you be open to DNA testing?
I definitely am. People have asked me. I am open. It would be something that it would take it into the court, so it would be a legal matter, and we would have to petition the foundation to and show that there is enough evidence that warrants DNA testing. So it's a legal proceeding. It's not just a request that I would make. And those talks have been ongoing, on my side for a while. So I can't really say at this moment that it's the next thing that's happening, but I am sure within my future that will take place because it's a natural progression. I'm stating, a biological fact, and and DNA testing does exist, so the two will come together. But it takes the side that represents him, as well as me and many lawyers, to make that agreement. Because of his status, because of who he is. That's why it more work than just going and buying a DNA kit, that are readily available. But that is the next, that is a natural progression, and I've always been open to it.
Yeah, I was thinking about when you were saying that because I was thinking about what happened almost 10-plus years ago with Robert Johnson's estate, the bluesman who died at the age of 27 back in the 30s. Like, it was like they assumed they had nobody related to him, right? But then come to find out he has a son. And by him coming to court and getting DNA testing, they proved that he was the heir of Robert Johnson, and he was allowed control over the estate because for years it was controlled by somebody else. So is it possible that if you were found out to be Louis Armstrong's heir, that you will have some type of access to his estate, and that what the foundation may fear or may not welcome?
I can't answer that question. I know that in the time that it took, once he passed away, all wills go in probate. And my mother did nothing during that time while the will was in probate. So there's always a statute of limitations of how much time can pass. But what's more important for me, because I grew up and I'm self-made, through it all, I've had a very successful career and life, not only going through personal obstacles, but in the 70s and early 80s, when you're in the business world, going from a receptionist to an executive as an African American was no easy feat. And I made all of that happen and had a very successful career as an account executive in broadcasting, selling radio and television. and also putting myself through culinary school, becoming a personal chef. So I've always financially taken care of myself and excelled. But for me, the importance of getting my story told was all about acknowledging me as someone who deserved to have a voice. So spiritually, it's more important for that. The book will monetize, and it's a great story, and it should, monetize, because there's stuff out there that's not even half as good, and it makes money. So, I expect this to monetize, and it's great content. It's not just me saying, here I am, but it's a story to get people to talk, to think, to look within themselves, their family, empower people. So that's all well and good, and that was my main objective. But connecting with his foundation with the DNA test or any kind of finances, that is not my immediate goal, but I am open to the DNA opportunity. I can't even, as far as the finances, I have no say in that. Ideally and rightfully so, I should have a voice in things that go on with the foundation as his heir. That I should have a voice, and I should be included in that. And I hope that they arrive to that point sooner rather than later. But everything's a process, and the first thing that had to happen is happening now, me speaking up and speaking out.
Yeah, definitely did. I mean, first step first, but I mean, for you to do this and take so many years for you to get this off your chest, it's like you was waiting to exhale for almost 50 years to get this truth out there. I want to know, has any other jazz siblings come to your aid since then? Because I'm thinking about a couple of people off the top of my head. I know Dizzy Gillespie was a admirer of your father, and he lived nearby him in New York. And I believe they said he didn't have any kids, but I believe he has a daughter outside of his marriage.
Jeannie Bryson, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but have you talked to any, or even Clifford Brown Jr., the son of Clifford Brown? I know it's like he took a similar path as you as far as getting into the media, to broadcasting and things of that nature. Have any of these famous jazz siblings reach out to you, or the siblings of famous jazz icons reach out to you?
Actually, one who's in the same, who's in a similar situation. And that's Bud Powell's son, his John Powell. So, so he's reached out to me, and we've met. He met me at a book signing event in Peekskill a couple of months ago. We stay in regular contact. So through him, other people know about me, but he most notably made a point to get in touch with me.
Oh, that's beautiful. Wow, I'm glad that people are coming to your aid and supporting you. Have anybody from Louis Armstrong, I know, you've been over 100 years old now, but have anybody from that time, from Louis Armstrong's circle, if anybody's left really, reach out to you in support?
No. No, they haven't.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But they haven't done anything to derail as well. So I recently did an interview on WBGO. At the end of that interview, the news director actually made contact with the Louis Armstrong Foundation, let them know that he was in the interview, and asked for a comment. And their comment was he will not confirm or deny. So, I'm speaking out. They're not confirming or denying. That's their choice. So they're not doing anything to stop me in that way. Now, I'm not so sure that nothing took place as far as any of stopping the book deal. The world of business is who doesn't know who, and it's all about networking. And, so it may have been stopped at that level at that point, but when I made the decision to self-publish, I went out there and did it, and people that I know reached out to me, and all my interviews are through people that I've known and worked with throughout the years. So I've been pretty vocal. I'm on Amazon. You Google me. The first thing that comes up is the article's written. You Google Little Satchmo. The first thing that comes up is my website. So, I'm speaking the truth, and they know it. I talk about the letters of support that came from his management office. You can't deny physical paper that I have. All of the letters that came from him that I use as excerpts in my book to tell the story, all of that, has been authenticated. So I'm only saying what's already out there. The one book I would say that kind of showed my father in a fuller light was a book edited by Thomas Brothers called In His Own Words, and it's a collection of letters that he wrote over the years but different categories. One was a autobiography that my father was putting together, so that takes up several pages of the beginning of the book, and it's a manuscript. And then there's a letter in there that he wrote to his manager, Joe Glazier, and it was a list of things he needed to do. And in that letter, he asked Mr. Glazier to send money to my mother, and talks about the baby, me, that, she had and how cute I was. And also in that letter, pretty graphically describes the night I was conceived. So in his candor, just went through that. And I remember the first time I read that, it was hurtful in many ways, but I was very happy that something was out there fully in his words about us, but also the sadness about that was, we weren't in the light that we would want to be, endearing. So he's writing to his manager, and it was more crude. But, but it showed a different side of him. It showed, in his personal life, there were many people that he wanted to take care of and do favors for. And that book also shows letters that he wrote about different musicians and his thoughts on race issues and just various pieces of him that show the full man. But I just hope that my story just generates more of that conversation about all of Louis Armstrong, the Renaissance man that he was, the artist, the visionary, the symbol of success for many, because he crossed over so many barriers. And he had a daughter that he loved, and he did love a woman outside of his marriage, and he took care of them because he was a good person, and he did the right thing. Financially, we didn't want for anything.
Now, are you musically inclined? I know a lot of people want to know, are you musically inclined like your father?
As a child, I did take piano lessons. I even played the accordion. I played the guitar. I learned how to play the clarinet. So overall, I played 7 instruments growing up all the way to high school, but I became a young mother early on, so my focus shifted, and I obviously didn't have the time to devote to music, but I am musically inclined. I read music very well and have a great ear.
You played trumpet, too. You played trumpet when you was growing up as well?
Yeah, I did. But,
Wow. Okay.
when you have Louis Armstrong as the standard, you know.
like Michael Jordan at your dad or something. That's why I play basketball.
It's that's what you measure it by. So me getting out there and really, you know, playing the instrument professionally, I didn't have those kinds of chops. I do have talent, but you know, his transcended you know, natural talent, and he was dedicated, and he was very, very passionate about it. I love music. I don't have that passion for music. I have that kind of passion for food and cooking and the knowledge of it. I love everything about cooking, learning, growing in new ways. So, you know, I'm very passionate about that field, and I love music. But as far as playing it professionally, I never had that desire.
Yeah, so you're a culinary artist, correct? Are you a culinary artist?
Yes, I am. You know, I enjoy. I'm very good in the kitchen. I enjoy cooking. I enjoy creating healthy meals that don't taste like you're eating health food. You know, full flavored meals with all health benefits. And that's, you know, as a personal chef, that's what I do for my clients. When I cater a party, I try to design my menus that way. So more and more, that's my focus.
Now, how good are you at making your father's favorite dish, red beans and rice?
I am very good. As a matter of fact, I love all kinds of bean dishes. So I do a black-eye pea dish, you know, a real slow-cooked lima bean, but red beans and rice, and it's one of my favorite dishes as well. So I do it well, and you know, and I don't know if you know this, he also loved Chinese food. That was a favorite of his. So I like to play with Asian flavors as well.
I got a couple more questions. I know our time is winding down, but I just want to ask, your mom is still around. She was part of a famous dance team, correct?
Yes, Slim and Sweets. That's how she got into, well, she got into show business when she was 16, and she was the Cotton Club, and her aunt, we're actually cousins because, but we called her Aunt Bertaloo. She married my mother's uncle. So Aunt Bertaloo and my mother's mother, Lucille Wood, were married to two brothers, the Wood brothers. But Aunt Bertaloo was, you know, the captain of the chorus line for the Cotton Club, and Mom got involved and got on the back line, and then she was asked to go on tour to South America, and for 18 days she was part of the show, the Cotton Club Review, that traveled on that boat, and she just stayed in show business and met her husband, Luther Preston, and they formed the dance team Slim and Sweets, and they traveled all around the world in black vaudeville. And the way the show was formed, they would have a comedy team, a dance team, maybe another singer, and then the big act. And that big act, a lot of time, was my father's band or Duke's band or Count Basie's band, you know, and that's how they would travel as a show. So she was a part of the show, and then she did a lot of work with the USO. And she was signed by the same management company, Associated Booking Corp., that my father co-founded and was managed by.
I know it.
So that's how they met.
Louis. That's awesome. I mean, it's like Louis had a thing for dancers. I know his fourth wife, Lucille, was a former dancer at the Cotton Club on the chorus line. I think she was like the first dark-skinned woman to perform on the chorus line. So he had a thing for dancers, for entertainers. So your mom is 91 now, and it seems like in the book what I got from your mom is that she was very protective of Louis Armstrong's reputation and his image. Do you feel in a way that your mom chose Louis over you?
Yes. Although
and how have you dealt with that?
Doesn't see it that way. she protected me from unsavory elements out there who might want to do me harm if they knew I was his daughter. And also, we had everything we needed, protected our reputation. So that's how she feels about it. But I feel that she chose to be loyal over him, over the future, my future, thinking of me past that moment and thinking of me, growing up and being connected with him and making sure I had his name. She just didn't think that way. And you don't operate out of, you can't be impractical when it comes to when you have a child and you're raising a family, because there are certain things that have to happen. You have to have a roof over the child's head. They have to be educated, just things. But from where she came from and how she grew up, she had his love, she had his word, and he kept his word. He took care of us. He made sure we were taken care of, bought us a home in Mount Vernon. So she felt that he did all that he needed to do, and the legal part was not necessary for me. She didn't understand why it would upset me. And different people in the family, especially my uncle, Kenny, would confront her and say, you need to do what's right for Sharon, because at some point he's not going to be here, and you can't depend on, the management office to do the right thing for the rest of your life. And it was true, because once he passed, he left money for us, but once that money was gone, that was it. There was no connection, nothing. And so I would definitely say the choice was for, protecting him and not me.
Max is just, I always wonder about, famous fathers and their progeny. Is it possible to be a great artist as well as a great father? I think about Picasso. I think about Charlie Parker, who's a resting place I visited in Kansas City recently, and I think about your father. You think he would have been a great father as well as a great artist if he could have been, or you think that would have been impossible?
Well, I think for if all he needed to be, in my opinion, was just around more, because when he was around, I knew that he cared for me. He would speak, we'd have conversations. There would be words of wisdom. But the involvement, as far as the day-to-day, maybe never would have been, but if he was around more, I would have connected more. We would have had more of a connection even though he passed when I was 15 or 16, we would have been closer going up to that point, as it was when my mother and father's relationship started to wane when I was 12. Those years leading up to the end of his life, I saw him very, very, very little, and it was because my relationship was tied to their relationship. So had he been around more and we had more of a connection, I would have had, a relationship more independent. So he could have been a more present father. I'm not sure, great father, that's kind of subjective. But because things were the way they were, there was not enough of him for me, and they made the decision that, legally separated me from him. And so, and of course I don't agree with that, and that's why I'm speaking about it now.
And your mom, she's been supportive of your speaking out in the book for the most part?
Yeah, for years she didn't want me to do it. She didn't understand, but about 5, maybe 6 years ago now, I showed her the affidavit that Lucille had signed, and saying that he absolutely had no children. And that really hurt her and bothered her because in the letters, in the excerpts of the letters that I included in the book, you see that, my father talks about Lucille, telling her what he feels her reaction would be. And also in one letter, he said that Lucille would not be sending money to us anymore. He's having that done by his office because she would be late. So Lucille was obviously involved, obviously knew. My mother told me that she wanted to adopt me as a young child. My mother wouldn't let that happen. So for my mother to see that, it's one thing for, her to know that she didn't, of course, never divorced him and, of course, didn't really acknowledge me. But to put that in writing like that when all of the experience was absolutely contrary, that hurt her, and she just kind of backed up and said, do what you need to do. But she was sad that she, just at that point she couldn't argue with me. So.
Yeah, I mean, like the book, people got to read your book, Little Satchmo, because I read it. It only took me 3 hours. I was so engrossed in it. I sat down to read it, and I couldn't stop reading it. It just kept on. It was a true page turner. There's a lot of stuff there, a lot of different themes running through that book. And I was, interested, how you found out at 10 that your father, had a other life through the Johnny Carson show.
Yeah, watching TV.
And that's crazy, to find out, not from your mom, not from somebody you trusted, but from a stranger, naturally, to find out, they had another life somewhere else. And I want to know, what is your fondest memory of your father? I know we played your song, La Vie en Rose, your favorite song of your father, which is a brilliant song. I'm glad I was able to accommodate you on that. But what is your fondest memory of your father?
I think it's not one particular memory, but just when I was very young, like ages 3 to 6, we would travel summers. I wasn't in school yet, so my mother and I would be a part of the bus tour and travel with him throughout the summer. And one summer, as I got a little older, my cousin Yvonne joined us, and she has fond memories of just staying in hotels. That's a big deal. Seeing the shows that I could see, being behind stage when I could. If it was a nightclub, of course, I couldn't go, but if it was just a stadium, we were always a part of it, and I was always a part of being in the dressing room and seeing the musicians and the excitement of all of that and traveling on the road. Those are my fondest memories.
I want to close with this. I want to thank you once again for taking so much of your time out to talk with us, because time is one of the most valuable things we have to give. And I want to actually, I found out reading your website that Forrest Whitaker is directing and starring in a film about your father's life. Has anybody from Forrest Whitaker camp reach out to you?
No, they have not as of yet, but from what I understand, I think that project has been on hold for quite a while. So there could be the possibility and opportunity that someone from his camp will reach out to me or, see the book and have some questions. But as of yet, no, I've not heard from them.
And who do you think should play your father? I know Forrest Whitaker is a great actor. He played Charlie Parker, did a decent job of portraying Bird. But who do you think, in your opinion, could do a good job, a great job playing your father, portraying your father?
Truthfully, I think Cuba Gooding Jr., because when you look at Cuba, he may be lighter in skin, but, a lot of his facial expressions are facial expressions that my father had. When I look at Cuba, and just some of the nuances in his face, when he would just change expressions, be a little bit more serious, somber. My father's jowls would just drop down. His eyes would get a little bit bigger, but the mouth area would definitely droop down. And I look at Cuba and I say, if I'm fortunate enough that my book becomes a screenplay, that's who I would have play my father.
I can actually see that. Since he said all that, I can see, oh, Lord, I can see Cuba Gooding. He probably win an Oscar for it, too.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
I can see it. Oh, my God. Oh,
yeah.
You put it in my mind. I can't believe it. Okay.
And not only that, my father was not a tall man. He wasn't really tall, and Forrest Whitaker is a tall guy. So, and he's one of my favorite actors. What he has done in The Butler is just transformative, really bringing that character to life, and everything that Forrest touches is fantastic. But who my father was, small guy in overall stature, and when you watch, there's a great video to watch him doing a duet with Bing Crosby, and it's on YouTube. And just them just bopping and weaving, I see those movements more in Cuba, than I do in Forrest. Cuba's more nimble, and he's also more animated, or has been. And in a lot of my father's early works, he was kind of animated in the way he talked. It was over years that he was a lot less animated. But when you see him in the early movies from the late 30s, Pennies from Heaven, to the role he played in Stormy Weather, when he talks, all of him talks. The hand talks, the head talks, everything moves. I can see that in Cuba. So he's definitely my choice.
Well, thank you, Sister Sharon. I hope Hollywood will hear this. We're going to put it out there for everybody to hear in the universe, and you never know.
You never know. You know what? I'm a big believer in, getting things in the universe, and that all we are is energy. So the energy you put out will come back.
That's nice to know. Sister Sharon. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I said, no, I'm a true believer in that. So,
And we're a true believer in you, and we all be. I want to thank you once again for writing the book, Little Satchmo. Go to the website, littlesatchmo.com. It's also available on Amazon.com. But we want to thank Sister Sharon, Preston, Foster for spending some time, and also for taking the time to tell her story to the world. It's a very important story, and I think this won't be the last time we hear from Sister Sharon. But before we go, were you able to auction off the letters you had? I know you had some letters from your father up for auction earlier this year.
Yeah, no, the letters did not sell, but the publicity, I always knew that the letters would kind of create that bang, that opening to talk about me, because it's his words. It's him talking to us, talking to my mother, talking about different situations and people. So it showed the relationship, and what it did was generated so much press throughout the world. People told me I read about it in Australia or the Middle East. I saw it in the London newspaper. So I still have all the letters and the copy of the audio tape with a message to my mother and me, where he talks to me on that tape. I have a copy of all of that. So maybe the letters will auction at a later time, or maybe they'll just go on to the next generation. I'm not sure yet.
Well, it's going to be out there. Something's going to happen. But I want to thank you once again for this, having the courage to step out on faith and do the things that you're doing, because it's making a difference. And it's empowering people in more ways than you probably couldn't even ever imagine. But I want to thank you once again, and the words of the great Duke Ellington, we love you, madly. So we want to thank you for being here on We All Be Radio, Sister Sharon, and hopefully you could come back again and let us know some updates.
I will. I look forward to that, and thank you again for having me on your show, and I thank your audience for listening to my story, and I hope that they read it and enjoy it as I meant it to be enjoyed by people, and empower, have an empowering message and empower people. So thank you. God bless you, and have a great rest of the show today and always.
Thank you, Sister Sharon. Thank you so much.
Okay.